When we bring other countries' issues to our home soil, you're going to have that problem constantly.
So Canadians are super fed up. They're fed up with politicians. They're fed up with drama. They want stability.
We have 2 million people per month using the food bank. This is a record high number.
Have destroyed that country. Talk to any Canadian. It's
thousands of people coming in the past 5-10 years, and there's no place to live.
The cost of living is killing us all.
It's over for Canada.
Welcome to Canadian Rant, where real Canadians speak openly about the realities shaping our country. Across this nation, from busy cities to quiet towns, something is changing. People who have worked hard their entire lives are starting to ask the same question. Why does it feel like we're falling behind in our own country? We wake up early. We put in long hours. We follow the rules. We pay taxes on nearly everything: our income, our fuel, our homes, even the food on our tables. We were promised that hard work would lead to stability, maybe even prosperity. But look around. Housing is slipping further out of reach for families and young people. Healthcare systems are stretched thin. Everyday essentials cost more than ever before. And despite contributing so much, many Canadians feel like the basics, affordability, opportunity, security, are getting harder to hold on to. So how is it possible that in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, hardworking Canadians are struggling just to build a future? This isn't laziness. This isn't entitlement. This is exhaustion. Canadians are tired. We're frustrated. And more people are beginning to realize that the system may no longer be working the way it was meant to.
When we bring other countries' issues to our home soil, you're going to have that problem constantly. And I feel when we were growing up, we didn't have that. There was more pride. We were a very strong country at that time. And I feel like we've lost our way. We've lost our way here in this country. There's a massive divide now. You know, people want to blame other countries for our faults, and I blame our government. When you have a government who's not for the people, you see what, the results are. People are not the same anymore. And, I feel like they're almost feeling defeated. Like we've come so far with so many different detriments to our country from, the COVID situation, from, the pricing of food, from the housing situation. There's just so many, things working against us that people are having a hard time finding the good.
have destroyed that country. Talk to any Canadian. It's unrecognizable from what it was 15 years ago. Totally different country, unaffordable housing, disastrous border policy, flow of fentanyl and drugs into that country. It's unrecognizable. And it's all been done at the helm of globalist leaders in Canada. Well, it looks like they just got another one. Mark Carney. So who is Mark Carney? Let's understand who this guy is. How did Justin Trudeau just hand over the keys to this guy? And when will Canada actually get a right to vote and pick whether they want this guy in business or not? Or Pierre Poilievre, who is seemingly sounding more and more like a liberal every day with his positions on Ukraine, his positions against Trump and trade, the fentanyl crisis and everything else. So what is going on in Canada? Let's talk to David.
So Canadians are super fed up. They're fed up with politicians. They're fed up with drama. They want stability. They want accountability. They want affordability. They want safety. And somebody just sent me the video of the rally in Alberta about Alberta separation. And these people are serious. And a leader brings people together. It gets people to row in one direction. Because the reality is Canada can't fight outside sources if we aren't united. If we aren't standing together, we can't stand up for ourselves when we're fighting each other. And so Alberta has been vilified for a long time. Their industry that generates the wealth for Canada has been vilified, oil and gas. There's overreach over and over again by the government and Ottawa to tell them what to do, how to do it, and to keep their resources and ultimately their economy and prosperity in the ground. And they're done. They're super, super done and they're super frustrated. A great prime minister will get us all to row in one direction. So, Mr. Carney, I would say without a doubt right now, one of your top priorities, show in legislation and policy that you are done disrespecting the West, that you are going to make respecting the West a priority, that you are going to repeal the bills that have created so much of this tension, Bill C-69. We need you to celebrate, restore pride in our oil and gas industry. You need to tell Albertans we want them, we love them, we need them, and we're sorry. You're sorry. Ottawa is sorry for creating this division and abuse. And that's really what they are saying. And I'm telling you, these people are serious. Remember, when a whole bunch of people, I think it was the largest in the world, were just a fringe minority? Take people seriously and restore this relationship. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. Mr. Carney, this is Ottawa's responsibility. You are the Prime Minister. Canada needs leadership right now.
So big news. It's official. I am leaving Canada in 2 months. I was actually really excited. My house is sold and everything's packed. And man, I fought to stay here so bad. I'm just struggling in every area. And the government, everything's gone downhill, and this is not the Canada I moved to.
I got in an argument with a good friend the other day. They say we live in a free country. That's a lie. We're trained to repeat. You work, they tax you. You own a home, they tax you. You buy a house, they tax you. A car, tax. Food, tax. Clothes, tax. They tax you. They tax your utilities. They tax your phone. They tax your insurance. You don't even touch your paycheck before they take their cut. Then after a full year of grinding, after breaking your body, soul, and mind just to survive, they audit you like you're a criminal and ask if maybe you might owe more. Tell me how the hell that's freedom. We're drowning, living paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from losing everything, while politicians steal billions, embezzle your money, send it overseas, fund wars nobody voted for, fail audits, trade stocks with insider information, get rich on salaries that shouldn't make them rich, and nothing happens to them, ever. But miss your rent by a couple $100, your life's ruined. Miss a tax payment, they're going to crush you. They lecture us about responsibility while robbing the country in plain sight. They say, it's for the roads. They're fucking trash. Healthcare, broken. Schools, failing. Crime, out of control. Food, unaffordable. Housing, impossible. So what are we actually paying for? What are we free to do? Free to work nonstop? Free to stay broke? Free to comply? Free to vote between people who don't care about you? That's not freedom. That's control with better marketing. If this is freedom, why does it feel like we're being squeezed to death while the people in charge live protected, untouchable, and rich? Don't tell me we're free. Tell me why we're allowed to be robbed and gaslit into calling it liberty. Because tell me, I'd like to know, how is this freedom? Someone explain it to me, please.
I get so tired of these liberals that, gaslight us and say that Canada isn't broken, Canadians aren't starving, Canadians aren't struggling. I think you're really out of touch with reality. Even our government now is recognizing that they've screwed things up so bad that Canadians can't afford to feed themselves. So they have to step in, and now we have to rely on our government for food. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have the highest food inflation in the G7. So obviously it shows this isn't a global issue. This is a Canadian issue. Our government has no clue what they're doing. They want to borrow, I believe it's $9 billion. They want to borrow that money, which is going to create more inflation, which is just going to put fuel in the fire. So now instead of food costs, it doesn't change the fact that the food costs are going to rise again, which is going to make things once again more unaffordable for Canadians. This is just how out of touch our government is. They need to fix the problem, not just keep throwing money at it. We have 2 million people per month using the food bank. This is a record high numbers. If you really think that Canadians are not struggling, that Canadians are not able to feed themselves, you're completely out of touch with reality.
Seem to realize that things like deficit and debt actually have meaning and actually have consequences.
Yeah.
Because deficits and debts build up, and governments get money by going to either the investment community, the banking community, the international bond community, and governments go begging for money to finance themselves. All governments do that. The more you need money, the more you go into debt, the more you need more money to pay that. Of course, governments actually can run afoul of the structure where the huge international lending institutions and banks just say, it's getting scary. You're going to hit a place where you're not going to be able to borrow. And when that happens, you've got huge problems.
Yeah.
But we've basically been out of control since 2015 with Justin Trudeau.
That's right.
People's retirement funds. People need to recognize that.
Yeah.
When a government is running out of control debt and deficit wise, their own retirement and the power of purchasing in their retirement year is reduced.
How do you think the government can address the housing affordability crisis in Canada?
And I think the government is bringing in immigrants and refugees, which I think is wonderful and great. But you know what? We don't have the infrastructure. And I'd say, put a hold and get houses built for these people. We're getting tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people coming in the past 5-10 years. And there's no place to live. Where are these people going to live? Trudeau keeps bringing all these people in and there's no housing. And the food banks are dry. There's nobody giving to food banks. He brings these people in and they don't have jobs. So how are they going to live without housing and without jobs to buy groceries? It's just absolutely insane. And it doesn't take a space rocket scientist to figure that out. My parents came as immigrants. My father came in 1928. Right the next day he started his job. He had a job to come to. He came from Croatia. Now these people come here. They don't have a house to come to. They don't have groceries. They don't have a job. They don't have language skills. Even learning a language is a problem.
It's so expensive.
Nothing seems to be in order. There's so much chaos and disruption in this country now. It's just one thing after another. It just gets worse as every day that goes on. It's just worse and worse. And I think Trudeau, with all his immorality and all his problems, I think he has to give up.
The cost of living is killing us all. Just today, I went to the grocery store and I just wanted to get a few basics, like cereal, milk, bread. And I didn't feel like I had that much. And I went through the cashier, and when she totaled it all up, she said, "That'll be $85.35, please." And I said, "There's no way. No way. Look at what I've got here. There's just a few things. It's not even going to fill a bag." So I said, "Just back it all out." And so then I took it over the self-checkout to get a second opinion. And sure enough, it was $43.29.
The main reason why we're leaving Canada after living here for 6 years is mainly because it's not worth it anymore for us to be away from our family and not being able to visit them as often as we would want to because of the high cost of living and everything else around. When we moved here, it was extremely painful for our parents. I know it was, even though they were excited for us and were very supportive, but it was very painful for them to accept the fact that their kid is moving away pretty much forever and they will only be seeing them maybe once a year, maybe twice a year max. But they knew it's all going to be worth it because based on our qualifications and our brains, we could do more with what we have somewhere in a first world country that is so much more advanced. And for them to see right now how Canada is struggling and seeing on TV how Canadians born and raised here are crying and not really knowing how to cope with the expenses and with the prices and everything. And the fact that I have been waiting for a doctor's appointment for 9 months, and the fact that we cannot leave our noisy downtown apartment because the rent has gone up astronomically, and a few other major issues that are not really being solved at all. It kind of made us all wonder, why are we here now, and why don't we try to live the best years of our lives somewhere where at least you can be closer to your family and freaking have some sun. Canada is a great country and we will miss it a lot, but you gotta do what you gotta do for your own happiness, And I'll be documenting my journey, so I have all the memories here in one place.
All I can say is, what the hell, Canada? I'm saying what the hell because I just saw a news piece last night at 11 p.m. on CTV News. And I'm calling this out because I can't believe they said this, and this is why a lot of Canadians are not waking up. And I'm exposing this because it is ridiculous. So right now, so CTV last night at 11 o'clock put out a thing stating that apparently, due to a recession, Canadians can't find jobs right now. I want to say 100% that is bullshit. And I'm going to say that because there's things that I know that have been proven by proven sources, things that have been already said, and there are, explanations for days as to what it actually is, and it's not recessions. Guys, you guys need to wake up, okay? What actually is going on, you can't find jobs because the immigrants have seriously taken your jobs. They've taken your jobs, they've taken your housing, and people are living in tents right now, okay? Like, we're in such a housing crisis that people are living in tents on the street because they can't find housing right now because the immigrants have taken all the housing. Jobs, well, people can't find jobs right now because, guess what? Yeah, you can't find jobs because they've taken all your jobs. And it goes further than this. They're taking everything. Guys, you need to wake up. I don't know what else to say. You guys need to wake up. I mean, I can't believe that CTV went and clearly did a bald-faced lie like that and put that out there and said, oh, it's a recession. There is no recession, guys. If you believe that crap, you are part of the problem, okay? You are 100% part of the problem. And anyone who believes any of this crap, I've even put resumes around recently, and honestly, I've had one interview and no job offers. I don't know what to tell you. They're not hiring Canadians. I can tell you that much. Okay. So if you believe the crap that CTV News put out there last night at 11 o'clock, on the news at 11, you guys are part of the problem. That's all I can say. You guys are part of the problem because you believe it. And I'm calling for the defunding of CBC and CTV because honestly, they need to be defunded. They don't put truthful things out there, and I know that because I've caught them a few times putting out fake news, and it's false. And they say whatever they need to say to get you guys to believe it. So, you need to stop believing it. You need to realize what's actually going on here. You're being replaced, okay? You as a Canadian are being replaced. And we need to start fighting for our country. All of us. Not just one or two people. You need to stop having the, oh, well, someone else will deal with it attitude. You need to 100% step up for your country because that's what our grandfathers and our grandmothers and everyone else would have done back in the day. Like they did way back in World War II and things like that. They stood up for the country. They stood up for what's right. And that's what we need to do is stand up for what's right. You guys need to start standing up. Okay? I'm sick and tired of seeing this crap. And yeah, a lot of you are going to comment and say, well, it's time for you to move then. No. I'm not moving from a country that I was born into. That's the difference. I was born here. I'm fighting for this country. This is my country. Enough is enough.
How? I was talking to a young lady that works at a certain coffee chain, and she was telling me that a couple of things that she's noticed. She's been at this coffee chain for a really long time. So, one of the things that she's noticed is that her employer would very happily hire people who were new to Canada. And when they first started working there, they worked really hard. Like, they never called in sick. They asked, they did whatever they were asked, etc. And then the employer helped them to get their permanent residence. And as soon as they got their permanent residence, guess what happened? They started calling in sick. They started pushing back and not wanting to do what they were being asked to do. And they just had this expectation that they could do whatever they wanted and not get fired. That's one. Then I was talking to another person who works at a different franchise. And she said that once they hired a manager who was from India, she noticed that they were no longer hiring Canadian citizens. So she asked the question, like, I have a couple of friends whose children are looking for work and they have submitted their resumes. So is there any reason why they were passed over? And he very specifically told her that he will not hire white people. I thought discrimination was against the law. Is it not? Have things changed? So we have all of these companies who are taking advantage of the temporary foreign worker program, which is a joke because, hello, Subway can't find somebody who is a Canadian citizen to take a manager job for $37 an hour. So they have to hire a temporary foreign worker? Or is it just that they like the wage subsidy? Because, I mean, I got my first job at Subway, so I could certainly work in that job if it was near where I lived. And I know lots of people who are out of work right now who could do that job. You know, it's like Lululemon saying that they were demanding access to the temporary foreign worker program or they were going to leave Canada. I would have said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. These big corporations are taking advantage of your money. Your tax dollars are going to pay for these temporary foreign worker programs, and they are called other things as well. So if you're wondering why your teenager can't get a job, it's because corporations in this country are going cha-ching. Why should I pay full wages when I can access tax dollars through the government and then hire people who are new to Canada, which quite frankly, we have seen over and over again, these people are being taken advantage of. So they come to Canada, they pay for these jobs because that's been exposed in the news, and then they get here and they are taken advantage of and abused because they don't know what their rights are. So maybe it's time we start boycotting all of these corporations. Canadian Tire, Tim Hortons, Loblaws, Walmart, all these places that are insisting that they take advantage of the temporary foreign worker program. Because the only way it's going to stop is if you hit them where it hurts, which is their pocketbook. The shareholders won't be very happy when they start losing out on their dividends. So, if you want this stuff to end, you have to start talking with your pocketbook. Because that's the only thing these corporations understand. I'm sick and tired of our tax dollars being thrown at every corporation or every foreign country while we have Canadian citizens in record numbers lining up at food banks. Our unemployment rate for our youth is astronomical, and I'm sure our unemployment across the board is a lot higher than what they're actually telling us, because we're seeing this huge increase in the number of homeless families, not just individuals, but homeless families. So if you want things to start turning around in Canada, write to your MP, write to your member of parliament, talk to people on city council, get involved in local politics, because the only way that this is going to change is if the people actually do something about it.
Canada has always been more than just a place on a map. It was built on an idea that if you worked hard, played by the rules, and contributed to your community, you could build a stable life and create a better future for your children. For generations, that promise felt real. But today, many Canadians are wondering what happened to that vision. Because this conversation isn't really about politics, and it isn't about division. It's about something much deeper: the growing gap between effort and reward. When full-time workers struggle to afford homes, When young families question whether they can stay in the communities they grew up in, when seniors worry about rising costs, it signals that something important is shifting. Canadians are not asking for shortcuts. We are not asking for handouts. We are asking for fairness, for accountability, for a system that reflects the values this country was built upon. And history has shown us something powerful. Meaningful change begins when ordinary people stop staying silent. Every major step forward in this country came from citizens who cared enough to speak up, to question, and to demand better, not just for themselves, but for future generations. So the real question isn't whether Canadians are frustrated. The real question is, what kind of Canada do we want moving forward? One where hard work is rewarded? Where opportunity is still within reach? Where the next generation believes their future is bright? That future is not decided by a few people at the top. It is shaped by millions of voices, including yours. If this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share your perspective in the comments. Your story matters, and conversations like these help bring realities into the open. If you believe these issues deserve more attention, press like. It helps this message reach more Canadians. And if you want honest discussions about the challenges, the changes, and the future of this country, subscribe to Canadian Rant, where real people bring real reactions and important conversations are never avoided. Canada's story is still being written. Let's make sure hardworking Canadians are part of that story. Until next time, stay informed, stay proud, and never stop using your voice.